Hi, I'm Jamie.
Hi, I am Kelly.
And welcome to the BodySmartPodcast.
Today we are talking about the very meaty subject of diet and body language messaging that we are giving to our children, and it's a big one.
Hello, Kelly Bamba.
Hello, JaymieMoran.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about the diet and body image messaging that we deliver to children.
I know this is something you're really passionate about.
So much. I'll try not to get on my...
Where would you like to start?
Let's start at the dinner table.
Okay.
Probably a sensible place to start.
An important place?
Yes. Good news, if you are at a dinner table, you are less likely to be obese in later years of life.
Okay.
But I would like to know, what were you told at the dinner table?
So my mum was actually quite good at this. She got the opposite messaging from her mum, which is, you've probably heard these things before, like, eat all your food, there's kids starving in Africa, and just like a lot of that subliminal messaging of like, you've got to eat all the food. And I know for my dad, the exact same as well, but my dad's family was super poor, like barely had enough money or enough food. So, different sort of messaging, and things obviously changed in that time. That was the message I got from my dad. If it was ever just him at the dinner table, you got to
Interesting.
eat. You got to eat all your food. Like, I've just made that, and just a bit of pressure to actually eat it all. Especially before, if you wanted a dessert, all the vegetables have got to go. Versus my mum was like, just stop eating when you're full, which was obviously very, very different. But sometimes, my dad hated wasted food because it just maybe seen that as like, well, that's money being wasted or whatever else. And sometimes, you'd only need to eat half the food that was made for you. You just wasn't hungry. Sometimes you'd eat your food and my sister's food and my mum's food because you just, but I guess that's like those hunger and fullness cues that you're probably very aware of as a child.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just don't want to eat more, but then sometimes you're being forced to eat more. So that was an interesting dynamic. But yeah, very much off my mum. It was just stop eating when you're full.
And that's really interesting because you had both camps there. You had both mother and father who have been taught a certain thing. Your mum's broken the cycle and delivered a different message to you, whereas dad was stuck in that cycle and delivering that other message to you where you have to eat all of your food because scarcity mindset, basically.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, we could all blame our parents for lots of different things, couldn't we? But you've got to also just have that more zoomed out approach and have a bit of empathy. But like, they don't know any different. That was just how they were raised at that time in their lives and the things that were going on in the world.
For sure. And it's, our parents do the best that they know how to do. And that's why this topic is really interesting, because when we have these conversations, we open up people's minds to, is there a different way? Could we do it a different way? Because somewhere along the line, your mum decided, I don't like that messaging that I was given. And when I have my own children, I want to deliver a different message.
Yeah. 100%. It's breaking the cycle, isn't it? So those bad habits or bad beliefs or bad language, I mean, whatever you actually believe to be bad in that sense, doesn't get passed on to the next generation.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So some of the messaging that I was given as a child was that there were special diet foods. My mum and my sister in sort of early teenage years, they were always on a diet.
Right.
My mum is a lifelong Slimming World Weight Watchers woman, and still not in a place where she's achieved her goals. So the messaging that I was given, when I was a kid, hungry as always, rummaging around in the fridge, you can't eat that. That's mum's special diet food.
Right. Yeah.
So what that message is telling me is...
My mum had that about curly whirlies.
Wait, curly whirlies were a special diet food?
Yeah, well, I think like one curly whirly is like, I don't know, 70 calories or something.
I mean, they're mostly space, right? Little holes, yeah.
You just reminded me of that, yeah.
But when you're told that there's special diet food, you're looking for the secret all of the time. And actually, just a couple of days ago when I explained to someone what I do for a living, they said, if you wouldn't mind, just let me know what the secret is.
Yeah.
The secret is that there isn't a secret.
Of course.
But when you're told there are special foods that, give you weight loss, basically, you're growing up thinking, I need to eat that particular yogurt or I need that particular thing because that's what's going to get me results.
Yeah. And that's all just marketing buzzwords to make you believe that there is a secret to getting the results that you want.
Yeah.
It sells.
It's sexy.
It is sexy.
the consistent, boring, repetitive, doing the basics.
Yeah.
Not sexy.
No, not sexy. And also, I think a big part of that as well is like learning the skills, because I think a lot of people think like, I've got to be on a diet, like quote unquote, forever. And like, yeah, we're all on a diet till the day we die. A diet, by definition, is just the foods that we habitually eat. But if you actually get to a place where you're really well skilled around your nutrition and got really healthy habits, it's easy. Like it's very easy to stay on top of. And I think that's with children that you see. If you have a parent that's brought them up to be really mindful about the food, instill really good eating habits, some education around nutrition, like that child goes on and never has an issue with food again moving forward. I mean, no, not never again. There are circumstances where stuff does happen, but for the majority of those people, it is very easy for them.
But on the flip side of that, if you're delivering a different messaging that isn't helpful,
which is probably the majority.
Yeah. So one of the other things that happened a lot in my childhood was treats. And rewards. So for me, I don't know at what point my family decided that I was a puppy, but I have this really vivid image of going on family walks, which is great, a great lesson to be outside, be active. But on these walks, I'm doing maths equations, this times this equals this. If I get it right, I get a sweet. Literally like a puppy.
Yeah.
So it's that reward behavior. So when I then get older and I'm looking for that same hit of feel good feelings that I get from doing something right, and don't get me wrong, I wanted the treat at that time.
Of course you do.
It's a sweet and it's delicious.
Yeah.
But equally, if I'd have got some praise for how well I had worked that equation out, or just having got the answer right, that would have been enough for me.
Yeah.
But and then you go into later years of life, I want to feel good. What made me feel good? Okay, sweets made me feel good. Confectionery made me feel good. But it's not the confectionery, it's the happiness that I had in that moment and that link between the foods.
For sure.
Did you get treats if you did well in your exams?
Yeah, I mean, even going back to the dinner table, you would get rewarded with a dessert if you ate all your food.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or you'd get food for lots of different things, whether it was sports or doing something or completing something, or like a lot of that, I think around homework as well and stuff as well. Like, if you, and I guess, again, I always try not to judge parents too much about it. Like, they were just probably trying to motivate you to do something that you found hard or struggled to do. And that was maybe a way of motivating you to do it. But yeah, it's then having that awareness is are those, because I still actually like to have something sweet after my dinner.
And that's habit.
That is just habit. Yeah, I've probably been doing that since I was a kid. And it's still there. Like, I have my dinner, I'm like, oh, I want something sweet. You know what I mean? And I do factor that in, and I am aware of that behavior. And if it wasn't serving me to a degree, I'd be like,
You would, because you're hyper aware, because you have that reflective time and you understand the impact that might have on your body composition or how you feel or how you perform in the gym. But, a lot of people don't have that level of awareness. So they carry that, taught behavior and taught habit from childhood into adulthood and then are sitting there wondering, how did I get here? Because I'm just living normal life.
Yeah, it just feels normal to you, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So rewards are a big thing. Treats.
Yeah.
Just the word itself.
That's just such common language. Like, you hear everybody talk about that, don't they? Oh, I'm going to have a treat. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And it is, I'd say 99% of the time around food as well.
Yeah. It is. So when we set our goals at Body Smart with our clients, we have a reward for every 4 weeks. This is your goal.
But we always say,
not food.
Can't be food focused.
Maybe not even drink focused.
It can't be food or drink focused, because again, you can factor those foods into your diet on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis without them feeling like they need to be a treat or reward, especially for hitting a health and well-being goal.
Because if they're a treat and a reward, the likelihood is you're restricting them at other points. And if you're not able to factor them in and live with them, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because long term,
no, 100%.
You're gonna eat that pint of ice cream.
Yeah, definitely.
So what kind of rewards do you see people having for achieving their goals that are not food? Because this is something people struggle with. But if it's not food or drink or that sort of occasion, going out for a meal, what kind of reward am I giving myself?
I think that really comes down to like what you personally value. Have you ever heard of the love languages, the 6 love languages?
No.
Where it's like quality time, words of affirmation. God, if I know all these, I'll be shocked. Yeah, gift giving. There's a few. Like a touch. So, people who just really value hugs or physical touch.
Me.
Yeah. So, if you, that's like an awareness thing as well. But if you kind of know what you value and what you enjoy, and even maybe what you enjoy with your partner, like all those things aren't really around food. But yeah, you could, for some people, a reward is just having a date with myself, or yes, as a new mom, yes. For some people, it's going and getting a massage or buying themselves maybe something that helps facilitate the goal that they're trying to achieve. So I'm going to buy some better training shoes. Or I'm going to buy like a new gym outfit. And it can be lots of different things. It doesn't, I think a big thing is it doesn't have to cost money. It can be free. And sometimes that can just be as simple as just giving yourself a bit more permission to go and do something you'd enjoy, or making the time to go and do it.
I think a lot of people, obviously starting with the messaging that they have as children and how that leads into adulthood, they actually don't know what else they enjoy other than eating and drinking.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
That is wild. Yeah.
Absolutely wild. So I think a lot of what we do in our coaching is helping people to find themselves and find what it is they actually enjoy, who they actually are as a person. And that becomes their reward. What do you
tend to see like rewards being set for clients when they set the SMART goals?
I mean, usually the idea is food and drink, and it's then that conversation about, we try not to reward with food and drink because it creates a negative relationship with food. A lot of the time they get bitten by the bug of the workouts in the gym. Yeah. So it's workout equipment, especially ladies that work out from home, the TRX, getting their squat rack maybe if they've achieved a big goal. But I've got one client in my mind in particular who's an absolute babe and I love her. She has kitted out a whole room in her house just from smashing her 4-week goals. For the last.
But it really helps with that confirmation of I'm actually being consistent. I've been consistent for 4 weeks. Right? I'm going to get myself something that's going to actually help more with my health and well-being goals. I'm going to have consistent again for another month. I'm going to get something else, because I think that is a lot of people are guilty of like investing a lot of money or time into something, doing it for a couple of weeks and then just stopping. And it's like those things just sit in the garage or the back of the house for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
and
hanging your clothes on top of that bike. Yep. I've been that person.
I think we all have at some point.
Yeah, for sure. So thinking about then, we've talked about the things that have been talked about at the dinner table, the treat, eat all of your food up. Those things do stay with us as we go through our life. So if we're teaching a child, for instance, you must eat all of your food, how does that impact us later on in life? Well, it impacts us because we don't recognize our feelings of hunger and fullness. We eat through our fullness and we're determined to finish what's on our plate, regardless of how uncomfortable it feels in our tummies.
And a lot of people do that. I mean, you're like sat there and you feel super uncomfortable and you're like, I need to lie down. And that's probably the worst thing you can do, because that's not going to aid in digestion. And
I'm never going to eat this much again until next week. we do it again. So those conversations early in childhood are super important in terms of what we do later on in life. And we do a lot of exercises with our clients.
Well, we have the hunger and fullness rainbow.
We do. It's a beautiful, beautiful rainbow that is literally just helping a client to understand what their hunger and fullness feels like. Where do they like to sit on that scale? Do they like to feel full? Because we're all different. I personally like to feel very close to stuffed.
I'm the same. I like to feel like quite satiated, like to feel my stomach's quite full, but I don't like getting past that point where I feel like super uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's not like I don't have moments where that happens, because I'm like, I'm going to eat that last piece of pizza. You know what I mean? Which I know I shouldn't sometimes. But I guess it's always just coming back to recognizing like, when is that behavior serving you or not? Because eating to the point where you feel sick and you need to lie down, it's like, it's not good, like at all. Like at all.
No. So that's the messaging that we're delivering. Also, our language around food is super important. And one of the things I am now finding myself doing with my 7-month-old, now she's eating solids, and every time I do it, I'm like, stop, don't do that, is congratulating her when she's finished. You've been such a good girl. Well done. You've finished all of your food. So in that moment, I'm teaching her, I'm happy with her when she's eaten everything. And that's the kind of, language and behavior cycle that is not going to serve her later on.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. So the language that we use has to be adjusted, thinking about, what do I want her to think in 5 years' time when she's trying to make sense of the world? Obviously, when you're a fully logical person and your brain works as it's meant to work. In childhood, it's developing, and it's our job as parents to help our child's brain develop. But as a child, if you're getting that messaging, that's all they hear. Mum is happy with me when I finish all of my food.
Yeah.
Which is much like the finish everything that's on your plate.
Yeah.
Ignore your hunger and fullness. Because if you...
Do you think a lot of people even understand the difference between hunger and fullness? Because I remember in Michael Easter's book, The Comfort Crisis, he was saying, only about 20% of hunger is physiological, like we're actually hungry. And the other 80% is just psychological, like we're bored, we're lonely, we're tired. There's just like lots of other psychological things. It's just habit, like a lot of things that you're saying.
Yeah.
And I don't think many adults, and definitely like children, aren't even aware of like what a hunger and fullness scale is.
No. And like I said, it's different per person. So it's not like we could say you need to be a number 7 on the hunger and fullness scale, because a number 7 for someone, if I was a number 7, I'd probably be like, give me food. I need food now. I'm going to kill everyone unless I get some food. Whereas some people, that might be where they are most content. So it's understanding where you sit on that scale. So not only is your language important in not giving that, damaging messaging later on in life, it's also important in, helping a child understand what does your hunger and fullness feel like. So we do a lot of don't do this, don't do that in all areas of life. And I mean, parenting is hard. And it's terrifying that you could say something and that sticks with your child for the rest of their life. But what could we be doing that helps them is a really important question. And that's changing our language around food and helping them understand those things. How does your tummy feel? What are they going to say? Because the conversation we would have with that child is not dissimilar to the conversation we would have with an adult who still doesn't know. What does your tummy feel like? Do you feel a physical sensation? No. Okay. Well, what else is going on? Are you bored? Are you lonely? Are you sitting on the couch by yourself and wishing you were out with your friends? Piecing all of that together, that can start at the dinner table.
Definitely. And like sometimes when eating a lot of foods, it takes a little bit of time to digest. Sometimes it's a case of being like, you know what? I'm going to go have a glass of water and come back in 15 minutes. If I'm still hungry, I'll eat more. But if I'm not, I'm not, and I won't need to. But yeah, it's definitely it's a skill that probably needs to start with the parents first in order for it to be passed on to the kids. Which is definitely, I know there's a level of pressure of doing that. If anyone wants the hunger and fullness scale, by the way, you can DM us on BodySmart or email us and we'll be able to send you over the chart that we've got. Just let us know that it's come from this podcast.
So thinking about then the moving on from the language that we use, what about the habits that we're showing our children? How many adults do you know that are weekend warriors, hit the Friday and they pull the pin on that food grenade and all the takeaways, all the drinks?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of people, I would say, are weekend warriors, 100%.
So our children are seeing that behavior. What do we think our child is going to do when they're 18 come a Friday? Yeah. Exactly what we've shown them that we do. Yeah. So what's the alternative? What else can you do? Because again, don't do this, don't do that. Well, what could we do? What could we do that would help? Yeah. And one of those things is, cooking with them, having that family cooking in the kitchen, learning about food, having fun, doing like a takeaway. Yeah. So it's not saying that you can't eat takeaways all the time. Some of the time it's that every single weekend, that trigger point is the Friday, go. And then it
takeaway.
all starts again on the Monday.
Yeah.
Because if we're in that cycle, our child is going to be in that cycle, almost certainly. So we need to show them a different cycle.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And that is a lot easier said than done.
That is a lot easier said than done, because that's also rewiring your behaviors and your habits to then pass them on positively towards your child. And it's not saying like all of that has to change, but even just some of it changing and being passed on is definitely going to make like a significant difference, even just a couple of things.
And we know that changes, the momentum that you gain from making one change, you might only intend to make that one change, but how you feel about that one change or the systems that you've put in place to make that change, it's probably going to snowball into another change and another change.
Yeah.
Just means you don't have to do it all at once.
Of course, yeah.
But the nature of being in motion, those changes will continue to happen.
Yeah. A lot of, I mean, bad habits compound over time. They get worse. You know, if you're gaining weight and you're overweight and you keep that bad habit, that's going to get worse and worse and worse and serve you worse and worse and worse over time. If you've got healthy, positive, good habits, they also compound over time. The quality of your life can get better. You can have more energy. Things can feel easier. Be more content, more happy, more mindful. So even just making some small changes that positively compound over time, you know, passing that then on to your children as well is so powerful.
So come Friday, all good and well, you're absolutely knackered from your week at work.
Yeah.
You got hungry children. You know you've got the weekend coming up, and you want to have that takeaway. Any tips on how to make that easier?
Planning, expectation, communication, you know, speaking with your partner, getting whatever food's in or for that fakeaway or takeaway earlier in the week so it's prepped, letting the kids know that that's what we're going to be doing on that time, so there's an expectation, even accountability from them. And yeah, you know, like making sure that you've put that time aside, so it's and you've communicated that clearly, so you know when it comes to that day, you've already bought the food, you've already communicated with your partner, you've already told the kids, you know, you've put it in your calendar, you've put it in your diary, you're kind of setting that environment up to ensure that happens. I mean, you can still just go and order a takeaway, but like you've took at least a couple of steps to making sure that happens. And if that's something that's important to you, you know, I would like to think that you would take action on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm incredibly lazy. I will say this all of the time. I'm a lazy person. Take the shortcuts. Get food that's already chopped. You know, any shortcut that you can take that's going to make that easier, because you've got to look at why that habit is in place. A habit serves you to start with until it doesn't. So why did that habit initially serve you? Well, it serves you because you're knackered come the end of the week. You're doing all the things, being all the things to all the people. So what do you need to do to unpick that? Take the shortcuts, make it easier.
Yeah, reduce the friction to making that happen. Because then it's so much easier, isn't it? Like if you can just reduce lots of steps, it's going to feel easier. If you can take 3 steps instead of 10, we're going to take 3 steps, aren't we?
Yes. I always see those recipes like, you know, quick and easy. If I see number 1 on that quick and easy recipe list, chop an onion, hell no, that's not quick and easy. I'm done. Yeah. But that's too complicated for me, too much friction.
Yeah. I'm not crying, you're crying when I chop an onion.
Yeah. So we've talked about how important it is to sit at a table with your family and how that leads into better behaviors later on in life, reduced chance of obesity. But what was sitting at the table like for you? And I ask this question because it can have the opposite effect. So all of the good things that come out of sitting at a dinner table, if that environment isn't a good environment, those good effects of sitting at the table, they don't happen.
Yeah.
So was sitting at a table for you a positive place?
Yeah, it wasn't. It could be hit and miss, you know, on a variation of different things, how your parents' day is gone. It's more so how maybe my dad's day is gone. And just the different type of parenting styles that they had. So yeah, you know, sometimes, you know, trying to get, like I'm one of 4, so trying to get 4 kids and, you know, 6 people sat at a table at the same time without any fighting and arguing and this and this. Yeah, it could be a little bit chaotic at times, and other times it could be it could be good and relatively peaceful. So I wouldn't say I can't remember it being consistent is probably one of the ways. And I can't even imagine what it would be like nowadays with phones and everything else. I mean, one of the rules that I've had at the dinner table for a couple of years now is no phones.
Yeah.
So anytime I sit down and have dinner nowadays, my phone is in another room.
Yeah.
And whoever I'm sat there with, same for them. Because I'm there to be present, enjoy my food, connect with that person. There's no reason for me to have a mobile or to be on the phone then.
Yeah. And what that messaging would say to a child is you're present with your food. You're present with the people that you're with. They're important to you, but you're present with the food. So a lot of people thinking about their hunger and fullness, they barely register that they're eating because they're preoccupied with doing something else. So if you've got your phone on the table or you've got the television on, what we're teaching children is not to be present with the food.
Yeah. You're very mindlessly eating. And to be honest, as much as I do that with other people, I was just saying to you, I've only just the past 2 weeks when I eat on my own, I've been very guilty of putting something on YouTube and watching a video and just being like, oh, I can just learn more things and do more stuff or just even be entertained. And I've stopped doing that the last couple of weeks, even just to be mindful with my food and just to maybe process my own thoughts, which is I can feel the compulsion to to get the phone out. I don't do it with other people, but like I said, on my own, I have been. That's something I'm even just trying to rewire and fight back against.
Yeah, and we always talk about BLASTED as was it an acronym?
Yeah, it's an acronym. Yeah.
Right. So if you're sitting by yourself and eating, if you go through that list, are you bored? Probably. Are you lonely? Probably. And, as coaches, we're not immune to that.
Of course.
And having that level of mindfulness of, I'm getting into this cycle of being less mindful with my food because I'm sitting and eating by myself.
Yeah.
So you're now allowing yourself to get rid of that phone, be with your food and your thoughts. And we talk about that habit stacking.
Yeah.
That's a great time to decompress and think things through from the day.
I mean, the justification in my mind was it's also habit stacking that I can learn more about this and learn more about that. You know what I mean? But it's also understanding like there's a time and a place for that, and it can't just be go all the time, which I think we definitely are all getting a lot more guilty of because of the fast-paced world we live in.
And another one of the exercises that we sometimes walk through with our clients is that mindfulness. When are you eating? Where are you eating? How hungry were you before you ate? How did you eat? Did you eat quickly? Were you distracted? And often what we see is that mindless eating, i.e. not paying attention to the food and the process of eating, you eat more.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think time and how long it takes you to eat a meal is a big one. Like if you're probably eating a considerable meal in less than 10 minutes, you're probably eating too fast and not really eating mindfully.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were siblings. I mean, was it four sisters you had?
3 sisters.
Three sisters. So was there a part of, I've got to eat this food quickly because someone else might eat it?
Probably I'd eat their food, but but also there was
quickly.
probably like I'd want to eat my food as fast as I could to just sometimes get away from the dinner table or go and play football or go and play the Xbox or just whatever it was. So sometimes there was a rush maybe to do that, which probably wasn't, great in some senses, but yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. I was very much, my sister I've got this image, this memory of having a friend over for dinner and I was so embarrassed. My sister literally leant over and was like, are you finished with that? My friend was like halfway through, still knife and fork in her hands. And she sort of slowly put her knife and fork down and went, yeah, sure. And that sort of, I eat I'm a speed eater, even more so now that I'm a mum and I need to get that food in. But I eat quickly because, people were always trying to take food off my plate.
Yeah, interesting.
And Joey doesn't share food.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've talked about food and how we, give off messaging to our children in terms of the language that we speak with food. We haven't touched on the language that we use to speak about ourselves and our physical body and our appearance, which is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
It is huge, 100%.
So a lot of the clients that we work with have a very negative relationship with their body and a very negative narrative about their physique, basically.
Yeah.
And I think as people, as adults, and this is something I'm trying to do because I do have a potty mouth, we watch our language around children. We try not to swear around them because we don't want them to pick up that language. But are we as mindful about the other language that we use?
I mean, probably not. The amount of ladies and women that I've spoken to, me, and there's a woman that was on the front of our website for a while, Susanna, and her like main reason why for wanting to change is that she had a 2-year-old daughter who walked in while she was stood in the mirror, picking herself apart, grabbing her stomach and saying super negative stuff. And she just hit that sort of point of like, I do not want to be passing this language on to my daughter.
Yeah.
And had a serious word with her husband, and, it was like, this needs to change. And that was a big motivator that she was going to sort of break that cycle with the language towards herself, as hard as it was going to be. And as much as that needed to change, that was the strong reason why that needed to change for her.
Yeah. And we talk about aha moments a lot.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it was her. I've got to do something. This is not the path I want to set for my child. And it sounds like she came to that quite fluidly, quite naturally.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of ladies don't.
100%.
So one of the things I often do with my clients who are being just horrible to themselves, if I know they have a child, I will say, right, I want you to go to your child and say, you can't wear that bikini because your legs are fat. You've got thunder thighs. And they are shocked beyond belief. I would never say that. Like almost like how dare you even suggest that I would say that to my child? And then I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying to yourself.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
horrible.
like I said, I had 3 sisters, and when we all got to the age of, everyone started going out and drinking over weekends and a lot of that going on, it was like a fashion show on a Friday and Saturday night before anyone out. And it was also like therapy off my mum for my 3 sisters. I look fat in this. I don't want to wear that. Just like the roller coaster of emotions from the 3 of them about what to wear, how it looks, how they felt, crying, highs, lows, finally, coming into me. How does this look on me, Jay? And I at that time, I was very brutally honest. But then they were just constantly coming to try and seek approval from myself, from my mum, from my sisters, just to feel okay about going out. Which, was sad because for me, they're all beautiful girls, good looking girls. And it was to hear that negative language and how upset they get about it, it wasn't nice at all to hear them speaking like that.
No.
Because that's not what I saw.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it impacts how we feel emotionally. And our feelings impact our actions. And those actions then impact our outcomes. So it becomes this really aggressive cycle of I'm speaking really unkindly to myself. I do want to make some changes with my physique, but the language I'm using, it goes round and round and, puts people in a space where they do emotionally eat because they've been so horrible to themselves, and it just goes round and round.
Yep.
And that little person is standing in the mirror watching you say those things. And they're starting to learn that language, it's okay to talk to yourself like that.
Yeah. No, 100%.
It's not okay.
It's not okay. And it's the kids watch, and it's a lot of it is just learned behaviors and how you deal with your emotions and how you speak to yourself and how you show up. And it matters. Maybe I think people do realize, but more than maybe people realize.
Yeah. And that's why I like to sort of coach it in the way that I do, where, it is a shock. It is that moment of like, absolutely not. I would never say that, because it's one of those things. People know they shouldn't be saying those things. But until you ask them to go out and say it to that innocent, pure child, no. Well, stop saying it to yourself, because you matter and your emotions matter. And going through every day, speaking to yourself horrifically, it's not okay. It's not okay for you, and it's not an okay message to teach your children. And I think that's really important why we talk about this, because people might be wondering, why are we talking about children when we coach women? And unfortunately, we know a lot of women come into coaching not for themselves. We would love them to be in for themselves, but often initially that's not why. They come to us because they want to set that, better example for their children. They want to stop that cycle.
Which is a strong why, and it's a great reason to do it, but making it about you as well, showing up as the best version as you can be, like that alone, being that person for your children is doing so much more for them than I think a lot of people, a lot of women maybe realize, because women are definitely more selfless than,
for sure.
than men.
Yeah.
And that is just, will put everyone else's needs and then some, before everyone else, or before themselves, sorry.
For sure. And it's a really satisfying part of, we are so blessed as coaches to walk this journey with our clients. And the amount of gratitude that I have daily for the job that I do, I feel incredibly lucky and blessed that I get to walk on this path with them. One of the most satisfying things is when that why shifts to them. They realize that they are important, that their needs are important, that they matter. And that shift from doing it for someone else to doing it for them is an incredible part of the journey.
Yeah. I think a lot of people listening as well would just probably don't even believe that to be like a reality. And the thing is, though, it does take time. Some of these ladies, when they come in, for them to get to that point of almost like self-empowerment and self-belief, it does take time, because as we've spoken about before, and like I said, there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs in the way, or there's a lot of expectations in the way, and it does take time and putting the reps in to, really change that belief system, become more skilled in certain areas for you to start thinking and feeling like that. But it can be done. It 100% can be done.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about language. We've talked about messaging around diet and body image. What about the messaging that we're giving to children about the way that they should look or the way that they should act? And we've talked about this quite a lot recently.
Yep.
It starts immediately.
Yeah, I think kids can recognize brands from 6 months old, like actual brand logos and stuff. So yeah, the marketing and the branding is huge. I know one of my friends, Lee, worked at Aldi, and I think they take a cut on some of their baby items for like a couple of years, knowing that some of those people will become customers later down the line. So the marketing and branding to young kids literally starts from day zero. It really, really does.
And just the way that we treat different genders immediately. There are some studies that show that midwives will leave boys crying for longer than they would leave girls.
Yeah.
And that just plays into, we don't deal emotionally as well with boys as we do girls. So it's not just that, us women have it harder, which I do believe that we do, but we treat both genders differently to a detriment, I think. And I am super, super anti the messaging that we give to young girls with clothes and toys. And I'll often dress my baby in boys' clothes because they say better things. They give a better message.
Okay, such as?
So a lot of what you see on boys' clothes is about being an adventurer, going out and getting muddy, living life, experiencing life. And you'll get the clothes that say like future leader, or they'll say things like raw, which is, about being loud and taking up space in the world. Whereas as a girl, you'll talk to be quiet and be pretty. And you'll see things written on clothes that are like stay home, and a lot of the images that are on girls' clothes as well will all have their eyes shut. It's all about being dreamy and flouncy and staying home and being pretty and not going out and getting the world like a boy would get the world.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I could definitely see the pros and cons to both. Because, there's definitely a male mental health issue.
Oh, for sure.
A huge one in especially in America and in the UK. And, there's that very much, Lewis Howes wrote a book called The Mask of Masculinity. And it's definitely understanding that, like, a lot of those things that are even maybe put on boys from a young age aren't the best messaging. You know what I mean? It's a lot of pressure to be raw, be loud, be a leader, be all these things.
Some boys are quiet.
Yeah.
And emotional.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but they're made to feel like they don't have a place in the world. And kids like to find order, and they like to find the box that they fit into. And once they find their box, their actions start to change and their interests start to change because they found their box. So if we're boxing children into, you're a girl, you do these things, you're a boy, you do these things, we're not teaching children to be well-rounded people. And boys aren't allowed to be emotional.
I would say, yeah, most men do box up their emotions. You get a few guys who shed the tears and be a bit more emotional, but yeah, men don't talk, not like the way I know women talk, like not at all. It's very surface level about emotions. I think that conversation is changing, as things are probably getting quite a bit more progressive. But yeah, there's definitely things. I think that plays into the culture side of things and the upbringing and marketing and all of those side of things. There's definitely physiological differences as well, though. Because hormones very much rule the world, and men having 10 times more testosterone definitely has got to play some contributing factors in just the way men are in general. I'm not trying to justify anyone's behavior in any sense.
But hormones are hormones.
Hormones are hormones. They affect the way we think, feel, and behave in so many ways. And definitely plays a big role. Yeah.
So you've got the physiological differences, which do lean males and females towards different things. But then you have this perpetuating cycle of it's like a hook. Okay, we've got women are more emotional, hook. And then everything is centered around that, and then again for males, you're not an emotional person, don't dare show your emotions. It's like the hook. And then everything is sort of geared towards that. You found their thing. And it doesn't allow people to be broad, full humans.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's and you can see, and there's pros and cons to both, isn't there? You know what I mean? If men were probably a little bit more emotional, spoke about the feelings, probably could help a lot with some of the issues that are going on. And probably vice versa with some of the messaging that's getting pushed towards women. But we very much do live in an imperfect world.
Yes. And it can go in the opposite direction as well. So, I think the change in the narrative of sort of gender roles now, which, stems from younger people, younger generations coming up and saying, do you know, actually, this isn't okay. And those conversations, it is changing things. But you don't want to be at either end of any scale often. And we talk about black and white thinking all of the time. If you're at 0 or you're at 100, your views on things are skewed. You want to be somewhere in the middle that gives you the most balanced idea on life. So a lot of this narrative now about females, screw you, I can be a career woman. We are now in a place where we are everything to everyone. You want to work like you don't have children like you don't work. And that stretch is crazy.
It's impossible at some points.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Trying to, like you said, be the career woman, be the mum, be the this, be the, it's exhausting.
Yes.
It sounds and looks and must feel exhausting. Yeah.
But the only way that we get these changes is talking about it.
Definitely.
And it starts, if you have these conversations early, and it's not about having these conversations where you put the idea into your child's mind, this is the way it should be, just getting them to think about it. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that stereotype?
But how do they block out the noise? Because even you as a parent, obviously you'll play one of the largest roles in that child's life, but then you've got the marketing, the TV, the news, the colleagues, the friends, the family, the cousins, we said the Barbie dolls, the action men, you know what I mean? There's so many other subliminal messages going on at every single point. How do you even fight back against something like that?
I mean, it's challenging.
Yeah.
I think it's the more we allow children to think and question and have their own opinions, the more they can question that sort of stuff. And it's not a set in stone piece of information. And something I read recently was actually about how girls are told they're not as good at maths and science subjects. And actually, if a girl is going into an exam and she's one of very few girls there and everyone else around her is boys, that influences how well she does in the exam, because she's reminded of this stereotype where I'm not as good at this as they are. Even ticking that box has been shown, you know, your gender, what's your name, what's your gender, tick. They do less well in that exam because somewhere in their mind, they're thinking, I don't belong here. And actually, a really important part of that is that if someone has a fixed mindset, and we talk about fixed and growth mindset a lot in coaching, because you need a growth mindset to grow and change and be better. But if you have a fixed mindset, that sort of messaging influences you a lot. And you do worse because of that stereotype. But if you have a growth mindset, so if you're taught to think in a certain way that is beneficial to you, that stuff doesn't influence you as much.
Yeah. Which is something we do encourage all our clients to develop a growth mindset, because it does allow you to be solution focused and not, you know, problem focused, and to sit with your thoughts and feelings and to be progressive around things that you want to change, instead of just, as you said before, that black and white thinking, because that black and white thinking does get you into that fixed mindset. Well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's just like this. It doesn't change. You know what I mean? And you do see it. Like, I always do find it funny. Not funny, should I say. But, you know, you'll every now and then see like a girl dressed, as you said, you dress your daughter sometimes in boys' clothes, but sometimes you'll see girls with like action mans, and it's like, well, good on the parents that they've not gone, you can't have that.
Yes.
You got to get up the Barbie doll, the Barbie doll. You know what I mean? It's just allowing them. That's what they looked at and wanted.
My favorite toy as a child was my action man that had a parachute, and I'd lob him out of the window, and it was fantastic. It was the best thing. But I'm very anti-establishment, and I have been since I was a little girl. So if I was told to wear a dress, I would not want to wear a dress because I was expected to, and I don't do things like that. So I was very much, here's a doll, well, I want that doll. But it works the other way around as well. You know, if we're not allowing boys to play with dolls, we're teaching them not to engage with children when they're adults.
Yeah.
We want, you know, it's really enriching to have a male figure in your life that wants to engage with you, that's your father, you know, and for the male to feel that that's okay for them to do.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So let boys play with dolls and girls play with action men.
Yeah. I can definitely see as well some like stereotypical guys being like, I'll let my son play with a doll. You know what I mean? Like,
but why?
Yeah, exactly. But why?
And it's a learned behavior. There's almost no thought process that's gone behind that. I've heard someone else say that. This must be right. This is what, you know, media tells me is the right thing to do. I will say this to my child. Yeah. So again, it's about being a part of that conversation and those self-limiting beliefs, questioning, why do I believe that? Is that actually true? Because we have a lot of thoughts. And if we allow our thoughts to go unchecked, we're setting ourselves up to fail, because little mind monkeys play tricks up there.
Yeah, definitely. So if we to wrap it up, we need to be mindful at the kitchen. We need to be mindful in the kitchen for sure.
We do.
But we definitely need to be mindful at the dinner table.
Yeah.
No phones. Language that we're saying to kids about finishing food. I think a hard part of that is, and I think what some parents would say back to that is, kids are smart. They're so clever at such a young age now. And they'll trick you and say, but Mum, I am full. Knowing that there might be an ice cream coming off the back of that if I say I'm truly full. You know, they're very, very clever and deceiving. But I guess obviously having that awareness of right language towards kids and dinner table. Where else did we go?
Language around yourself, how you're speaking to yourself, and what message that is giving your child. Yeah, and that negative body language that you've got, you know, where I think we've spoke about this, it's not necessarily like, it's not going from hating your body to loving your body, but sometimes just acceptance. Yes. And I know a lot of clients we've had, they've stuck stuff on the mirror just because, you know, I've done this in terms of like, we're all our own worst critics of our bodies. You look at the mirror and you instantly look at the part of the body that you don't like the most, and you'll say or think something negative instead of maybe just saying something that's accepting. Yeah. And then looking at your body and actually praising it for all the amazing things that it can do and does do. And clients, well, anyone in particular, trying to jump from love, from hate to love, that's a huge jump. Like you said, acceptance is often, again, moving away from that black and white, all or nothing thinking, just to accept it as a more realistic approach. And one of the things that I like to talk about with clients is moving away from your body being an ornament your body isn't there to be looked at and to be admired. And that again comes down to the language and the messaging that we get from the outside world and from the media. And one of my favorite phrases is, your body is an instrument. It is not an ornament. And that stops objectification. So we might be objectified by everyone and anyone on the street that is talking about how our body looks. But we often then self-objectify because that's all we know. So thinking of your body like it's an instrument, not an ornament, will help you make that change from hate to neutral to love maybe one day. Because you can say things like, you know, if you're looking at your legs and the first thing that comes to your mind is yuck, fat legs, cellulite, which is, you know, I've got big sports people's legs and that's how I used to think about my legs. Now I'm, okay, it's an instrument. It's not an ornament. My legs allow me to walk up that mountain with my husband. My legs allow me to leg press, you know, and leg press way more than that rugby player over there, you know. My legs are impressive. You know, I'm moving it away from what my legs look like and I'm talking about what my legs can do, because that's what really matters. And when you're talking about changing language and the way you perceive your body, that's a really, really effective way of moving through that. And then if we're saying things like that, guess who else is saying things like that?
Yeah.
Little Babby.
Yeah. And it makes a big difference. And then lastly, let your boys play with dolls.
Yes. And let your girls get muddy and jump in puddles.
Yeah, definitely. If you like this episode, do go and check out more podcasts over on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. And if you're interested in finding out more about our one-to-one personalized coaching where we can help you achieve fat loss for the final time, go over to BodySmartFitness.com or drop us a DM on Instagram.